Game over, man. Game over. Rob Lee is here. Schaun Champion's here. We're doing Aliens. This is Let's Watch It Again.
Just tell me one thing, Burke. You're going out there to destroy them, right? Not to study, not to bring back, but to wipe them out.
That's the plan.
All right, people, on the ready line. Are you me? Yeah! Are you me? Yeah! Get on the ready line, Marine! Get something to do! Get on the ready line!
Get your light up here.
Keep back, don't scare her.
Movement! Talk to me, Hudson!
I got signals. I got readings in front and behind.
There's nothing back here.
Look, I'm telling you, there's something moving and it ain't us.
Get them out of there!
How could they cut the power, man? They're animals. There's movement all over the place. 5 meters, man. 4.
Aliens. This time, it's war.
What's shaking, cats and kittens? I'm Rob Lee, and this is Let's Watch It Again. It's a movie review podcast where we break down and cover our favorite movies, hopefully your favorite movies. And today, for the first time ever, I have the super talented book, Schaun Champion. I have Schaun Champion on a podcast.
Hi.
So this is rare. This is a rare treat to be able to talk movies, to talk outside of the art space. And I get to be a little more problematic Rob, ridiculous Rob in this podcast space. So yeah, this is going to be fun. So I wanted to talk about Aliens, and I think this is coming up on its 35th anniversary. I believe it was released in July. So as we're recording this, it means I have the pressure to get this up in July. So what kind of relationship do you have with this movie? Is it a regular watch? Is it something that you've seen a lot of times? What's your relationship with this movie?
I have a very deep and personal connection to this film. It is my mother's favorite film of all time. So I think I've brought this film in every format for her as it has gone along. And she decided that I was going to rewatch it. So she sat down and rewatched it with me, and she just could not stop smiling. It's her favorite film. She quotes it all the time.
Well, hopefully we can do this justice and really hit those key points. So for those who've not seen it, I'm going to go over the synopsis. I'm going to go over some of the key points. We're going to talk a little trivia. I got some observations. They're not quite Robservations. That's for another podcast, but we'll get into it. So synopsis. This is the sequel to the second movie in the Aliens franchise, and it's interesting to call it that because for me, this was like the first movie I saw out of this group of movies. I didn't see the original Alien until much long after seeing this movie, and I have some thoughts and observations on that we'll talk about a bit later. So synopsis. 57 years after surviving an apocalyptic attack aboard her space vessel by merciless space creatures, Officer Ripley awakens from hypersleep and tries to warn everyone who will listen about the predators, aliens. Does that really hit on the synopsis? Would it be anything you would add to that, take out of it? What are your thoughts on that synopsis?
I guess it's a good synopsis of what's about to happen.
I mean, it's more that happens. I mean, we could get into the weeds with it. But yeah, that's the thing I like to do, because usually when I go to any of these websites, you'll have the story, and then you'll have the synopsis. And usually the story goes in deeper because like this doesn't even really cover the space marines, the colonial marines, or Newt or any of that stuff. But I think in terms of where you're at, because I didn't remember that this was 57 years after, which is clever on their part, because if you're doing a movie, and we run into that occasionally now, where you have these pretty long gaps between the first movie or the following movie versus the subsequent movie. And this came out in 1986. The original came out in 79. So that's 7 years. And I had an observation at the beginning, and I was like, Ripley's perm is doing very well in the beginning of this movie.
And I had the opposite thought. I was like, this wig is terrible. I was like, they couldn't even get it to match. What is going on? So
and immediately they just cut it. It was like, nah, you're going to be short-haired again.
Yeah, they realized it. I'm glad they did.
So this was directed by James Cameron, and he's credited as one of the 3 writers, along with David Giler and Walter Hill. Walter Hill, a lot of action movies and what have you, and it's a good combination there. I'm blanking on one because the producer is worth crediting and acknowledging because she kills it. Where is her name at? Because you would think I've done this before. Gail Ann Hurd, fire. Because I mean, I think the producer's job is always like it's a little thankless, but once you're up there, it's like you're the person. It's like you're the person to go to.
Right.
In terms of stars, one might be an omission here, and I want to know if you can guess this omission. I'm just going to run down the list of who is in this movie, who's noteworthy in this movie, who's the star of this movie, or the stars of this movie. Obviously, we have Sigourney Weaver, Michael Biehn, Carrie Henn, Paul Reiser, Bill Paxton, and Lance Hendrickson. Which of these things is not like the other?
Wait, go down the list again. Who was the last one? I feel like Carrie Henn isn't. Didn't she like quit acting like immediately after?
Yes, you're right. She's a teacher. She became a teacher. And I have thoughts. That's in I have a thing in towards the end of this called What Works and What Doesn't Work. And she might be in one of those lists. So as I touched on earlier, this movie is the part of like a larger series. So from your standpoint, because I know that those later movies, the Prometheus movies, do you consider that part of this canon, or is it kind of like, those are different things?
I feel like they're different things. I want them to be canon. I do love Prometheus. Okay. I know a lot of people did not like Prometheus. I was satisfied with it. I didn't expect the best. I expect what I got, and I enjoyed it. So, it is what it is. But yeah.
So Prometheus ended up overtaking this movie, actually. So this was the highest grossing film within that franchise up until Prometheus came out. So like holding that heavyweight championship for about 26 years. And the movie cost $18.5 million to make, which seems like you guys got a lot done in that budget, even though that's in 1986 dollars. And the box office was about $180 million.
Wow.
So it was a summer release too. So you had that summer blockbuster thing, and it did well. It was not a lot that came out that summer. I believe Howard the Duck came out during the summer. So take from that what you will. Do you?
It's okay.
I mean, it's a song in there that it might be the first Marvel movie if we're being honest.
Yeah, that and Blade.
Yes. I even will throw Punisher in there. I don't know if you've ever seen that one, the 1980. One. Yeah, there's only one good thing about that. It's not his ass at the end of the movie either. It's just like, I didn't ask for Dolph Lundgren booty. So let's see. I'll leave this up to you here. How do you want this to go? Do you want to go favorite scenes first? Do you want to hit on what works and what doesn't work? Or do you just want to get into some the trivia component? Which part would you like to do next?
I want to hear this, what works and doesn't work.
Okay, and feel free to put your 2 cents here. This is where we're going to tag team this one a little bit. I have some stray observations, so here you go. What I think works is space. I think space is we've seen, especially during the 80s, we're removed from Star Wars. We're post the earlier iteration of Star Trek, and we're moving into the next generation. So they didn't spend a lot of time on space because it still looks really good, but you could tell that these things are painted or some type of miniature that's there. So having space and using it in the way that they did and kind of staying in this, you're running away from something. You almost forget that they're not on Earth at one point, because you're always inside of something, but you know that you're seeing space in the beginning, you're seeing space in the end, and we're not messing around. So I think that really works, because even now with how things look a lot better, if you say that there's a movie in for real space, I'm probably not going to watch it. I don't need to see Gravity. I'm all set. I'm sure it was a feat. I'm all set. As I touched on earlier, I think another thing that works is the time jump. Actors, they age, and that's the thing. So we didn't have de aging then. We shouldn't be using it now. The way that we do is like, that's not what you look like. So using the context of we're in space, we kind of write this and make this work. We were in hypersleep or whatever. You can do weird things with age and time and make that kind of work within the framework of the story you have.
As far as space goes, I agree. They did notes. I was literally like, the first thing I noticed about this movie is food is completely set. We don't have this like very clean cut, shiny, I don't know, sterile, looking space. It's gritty. It's like dirty. It's dripping. It's all that kind of stuff. So I think that works really well that they kind of took that away from our, normal eye palette. But the set's actually terrible. when I look back at it, I was like, oh my God, this looks so foamy.
Oh no,
it looks really bad. But as I got into the movie a little bit more, I was like, you know what? I completely forgot that this is trash part. This is, the budget matches.
and that's the thing that pops up in there too, that I think one of the notes later, they were talking with Gail Ann Hurd about the cost of the movie, and most of the money went to the sets and I guess I forget, it was at 20th Century Fox. They were really tight. They were like, where are you putting, what's your budget for special effects? What are we doing here? I thought this was a sci-fi movie. So apparently they spent a lot of their money on the sets, and 35 years later, Schaun Champion is like, nah, I think that's a little foamy.
It just looks so bad. I'm just like, oh, we really believe that this was space. It looked better in the first film.
Yes. And that's the thing that comes up too. There was a bit of conflict between the initial crew, because I believe that James Cameron worked with most of the crew that was from that original one, but they were Ridley Scott's guys. So he had to get over with them for them to kind of make the set. And maybe is what they decided to put out there. It's like, yeah, this is good. It's not Ridley's. It's fine. But it was some tension on set with that. It's like, you're the new person. We don't really respect you. You need to get over with us.
Mm-hmm.
We touched on, I think this might be somewhere in the middle, because you've twisted my perception of the perm wig. So I'm going to take this off what works. I thought it worked initially, but you're right. Because if she would have popped out of the pod or what have you, the hypersleep pod with the equivalent of the wild fade, I would have been like, yo, come on. Can somebody pay attention to this? What's happening here?
Yeah. I understand why they did it. It just looked really obvious. And it was like a cool transition into her new look. So
this is definitely a thing a Black person would say, look, I'm looking at your hair and it is not real.
No, not that. It's just the curls were so big, and I had just literally watched the first movie. So I know her hair didn't look like that. It just looked Like
It's one of those things of like, I do this running bit with my partner. I was like, yeah, so what's her pattern? I'll ask in a movie using the Tracy Ellis Ross thing. Like, is that a 1C? Where are we at here?
Oh my gosh, it was so bad.
I think that this really works because it works in the same way that one of my favorite movies is RoboCop. And it works in the same way that the news works in RoboCop. The company, the Wayland company, when they're doing a whole debrief with Ripley earlier in the movie, I'm like, I hate these guys. They were exactly what you want. It's just, this is a line item. How can we just account for this thing and close that book? And that's what that whole sequence in the beginning of the movie, when she's talking about her crew who were murdered by this thing. And, we're seeing pretty much the whole rundown, kind of that covering like what happened in the first movie for those who have missed it. Because it's not really, in my opinion, it's not really a chronological sequel insofar as it's Ripley and we have the xenomorphs. We do that quick, hey, here's Yaphet Kotto and Tom Skerritt and the rest of the guys that are dead, but that's about it. And we get that scene in the beginning, and all the stuff that the company is saying, they're all assholes. So I think that works because it gets them over as, you guys are terrible.
Gives me a Blade.
Let's see. And lastly, I have in what works, Stan Winston. I mean, it was new work. It was new work going on here. You're building out these creatures, and some of the stuff that I read about them putting together the Queen was a task. It was a Herculean task, and it's effective because I don't want to be there. It feels like everything is wet. You know what I mean? like, what am I stepping in? It's just gross in that way. Now. And I think he was effective in that. Is there any observations or anything that you think like worked that I didn't really hit on?
What works? For me, the soundtrack. The soundtrack works really well at like throwing us into these very intense kind of scenes. So like when it first comes on, it's very like lullaby almost, like it's soothing us. Everything's okay. It's going to be fine. And, as things get more and more intense, the music like kind of picks up, but then I really like the idea of using like this military cadence to amp up the, I don't know. It feels like you're along with them. At least for me, when I feel like I'm one of the soldiers along with them, especially in the beginning when they're all suiting up and getting ready to go. And it's like this little drum cadence that's going on. I'm just like, wow, I feel like I'm about to go on this mission with, and then it reprises as soon as they're in that space, and the aliens are creeping in, and they're like, we can't find them. Like, where are they? Oh, yeah, exactly. So that whole like drum, if you go back to it, like the soundtrack is just perfectly crafted. The score, it's great.
I agree. And I think you keyed in on something very interesting when it came to like the beginning, it's that lullaby thing. If we're going from, let's say, the first 20 minutes, and however to include that thing I was talking about earlier with kind of going over everybody that died in the first movie, we're waking up. The last thing we saw is Ripley going to sleep, or she's awakening in this scene. So having that in the beginning, it's like we're waking up and then we're heading into this militaristic potential nightmare. So that's part of that transition that will have you, I think, and they're using the score to aid that.
Absolutely. It does. It's well crafted. Shout out to James Horner.
Yes. So now let's go to what doesn't work. And this is, and this kind of goes into a little bit of, it doesn't age well. So the first character I have is Vasquez.
Oh yeah.
And now my filth side, I'm like, yeah, I like Vasquez. My adult, like, she's Jewish. She's playing all like the actress is or the actor is Jewish. And it's like you're playing all of the stereotypes.
Yeah.
It's like it's like you're playing the stereotype that Michelle Rodriguez's career would later be, I think, in a lot of the movies she's been in. And I'm like, it's like you're doing pull-ups, and she's actually doing the pull-ups, so points to her on that. But it's like the tough kinda, you could be lesbian, you could not be in a stereotypical kind of way.
Day in the Marine Corps is like a day on the farm. Every meal's a banquet. Every paycheck a fortune. Every formation a parade. I love the Corps.
But then I'm like the guy that was blonde. I was like, are y'all hooking it up? Like, cause you slapped him. He's like, you're too much, baby. I'm like, what is this? What is this sequence? And then she shaded my man Hudson. It's like, someone ever confuse you with being a man? Anyone ever confuse you with being a man?
Right.
It's like
that's one of my mom's favorite quotes.
It's a great quote.
Yeah.
Her bandana was iconic, though. I will say that.
She was iconic. In another time, she was iconic, you know?
Yes.
She can't do those things now. She shouldn't do those things now. But
now you replace that character. You replace the actor.
Right. But that character is iconic. That was literally my mother's favorite part of the movie.
We'll talk about that, actually. I was thinking about it because I was like, she did the move that when you're culling, when you're trying to thin to her to get to the next stage, that's the thing that happens. And I was like, is this preordained? So like towards, and we're not really covering this chronologically, but when we get towards that sequence where literally you had 3 people do the self-sacrifice move to get Ripley and the gang out of there.
Right.
And yeah, I was like, you're too tough. You're going to die, but you're going to make it to like the last 20 minutes of the movie. That's what's going to happen, I think. Yeah.
I'm trying to like peek at my notes here too.
No, feel free.
Because I had, so I talked about the dream sequence in the beginning or whatever, but then I liked the introduction to how corny the crew was. Like it was such a corny introduction, but you just got this really, I felt like it was good enough for quick character development.
Yes. That's actually one of my favorite sequences, like how we get to some of that. And part of that is because they shot the movie out of order, like a lot of his stuff is, a lot of James Cameron stuff is. And so at that point, the cast had been together, especially like the Marines had been together, that they actually were like friends. So that camaraderie really comes through. And, you know, with kind of having really thin archetypal characters, it really comes through that you guys have worked together. And of course, you know, I love me some Al Capone. I was like, there's a cigar, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, all of it was just amazing. But yeah, she does not work at this point.
Newt does not work. Now, I recently listened to it was the unproduced script. I'm blanking on who did it. It was an unproduced script they turned into an audio drama, and they had like Michael Biehn and Lance Hendrickson involved for Alien 3. Alien 3 was very different than what David Fincher directed and then said, I'm taking my name off of this. And in this iteration of it, and I'm blanking on who did it, but Newt and Michael Bihn's character are still alive in it, you know, spoilers, right? And because that was one of the biggest things that people were tight about. It was like, yo, this character you made out to be, you know, we've accepted it. Because like in the 80s, if you're under 15, you're annoying. As a character like Top Round, which is wild problematic from like Indiana Jones, but Newt was like, you gotta, you know, can we get a chest buster like over here like stat? But then at the same time, thematically, I think it works because one of the themes in the movie is motherhood, right? And you know, so that works. And really,
does it?
They are trying to get it to work. The thing at the end was undeserved though. When she picks up Newt and Newt's like, mommy. And I was like, oh no.
Yeah. It's this thing that they do with like female archetypes. Mm-hmm. The maiden, the woman, and the wise woman. And it's like, come on. They literally put her down this path. They did. She's covered every archetype at this point. It's it's annoying.
They tried it. That was because I mean you can almost not even have Newt in it. Because it's like, yo, we were getting out of here. We were gone. And it's like my man Michael Biehn is used as kind of the dad type, but not really. I was like, what's the stepfather dynamic? It's like Newt doesn't have a dad kind of situation. And he's like the new dad. He's trying to get himself over as I'm a good guy. Let's go get her. Let's go get her, Ripley. Let's find her. I know she fell down this gear. Let's get her. Like, no, you got 15 minutes. Like, Big Daddy Bishop is going to pull off. So you need to get your ass in gear.
I don't know. I feel like I disagree. I feel like Newt kind of works.
Okay.
Because we needed Ripley to have a reason to care. And there's no reason for her to care about these Marines that have forced her to go out here. There's no reason for her to really care about these settlers. She'd be ready to get out of there. So in order for us to actually have a movie, she's got to care about somebody. I did find it interesting as we were doing like the character introductions and immediately her and Hudson Bond, not Hudson, Hicks. Is it?
Yeah, Hicks.
Yeah,
Michael
her
Biehn.
and
Yeah.
Like Bond, like you could tell immediately he had her back from like jump.
Yeah.
And so at first you're thinking like, oh no, that's the person that's going to make her care. And then you get this little girl and you're like, oh no, that's about to be trouble. Because they have, it's always trouble when kids are involved. You want to, they make it safe. I'm like, sorry, little Rebecca. I hope you make it.
Okay. You're swaying me or what have you. She's a kind of works for me then, because you have a point that it makes her care, but it doesn't get her there though. Because I think a piece of her being involved is Paul Reiser just flat out lying what their purpose was or what have you, which is a thing she's fallen for a couple of times in this whole series. She almost fell for it in 3 and it didn't quite happen. But we're just going there to kill it. Are you? We're just going there to kill this alien. So I think in this notion of like, you killed my people and I lightweight want revenge and I'm having these nightmares and all about it. That's what gets her there. She didn't know there was any body that was going to be there, let alone the kid. But once she sees the kid, you kind of like, look, you're innocent. So I got to do my part to get you out of here. And I think that's how it goes. So I think you're right in that regard. And lastly, when I have that doesn't work because it's just gross to me. When the queen dislodges from her baby sack, I was like, yo, it's like, ew. Like, what? It was just like, clush, clush. And I was like, what the hell is this? And it just dropped. I was like, right now, we have cicadas, right? And I was like, this is gross. I don't want this. I don't care. And it was just, I don't know. Just I was like, because I almost forgot when she's chasing Ripley and Newt. I was like, how is she gonna? And then you just see unhinged. I was like, you got to make another one of those too, because you're making the babies. This is gross. And it felt like I needed an adult too. So that's what I had in what works and what doesn't work. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on before we get into some trivia and other observations?
No, I'll save the rest for observations.
Alrighty. So I'm going to get to trivia and then we hit observations. So trivia, and it's almost that thing I want to record. I want to integrate in here. Tell me if you heard this one before. I almost want to do that. But like most films, as I touched on earlier, the film was not shot in sequence. But for added realism, James Cameron added the scene where the Colonial Marines, one of the earliest scenes, they did that last, so that the camaraderie with the Marines was so realistic because the actors had spent months filming together. So the shootouts and all of that different stuff, which was later in the movie, but it was filmed earlier. So they already kind of had this connection and camaraderie and bonding. Lance Hendrickson, who played Bishop, had privately pledged to quit acting if he didn't get this part, if the part didn't work out for him, because he had been a journeyman for so many years in acting, and it proved to be one of his most successful films. And yeah, like I think he's been, and maybe I'm wrong, but he's been probably the second most popular character within this franchise. Because I believe because I know he did the video thing, and I think he popped up as another version of Bishop in Alien 3 towards the end. And pretty much everyone dies, except for Ripley, even though she comes back as a clone or something in later movies. So it's like those are the only two characters or versions of characters that have popped up in multiple installments of this franchise.
Wow.
In both the standard and special edition versions, the 15-minute countdown at the end of the movie is indeed 15 minutes. Because how you run into movie time and it's like, oh, that's not 30 seconds. And apparently it's 15 minutes.
That's awesome. I did not know that at all.
Sigourney Weaver had several notes for James Cameron after having read the script. Although he could not grant all of her requests, Cameron praised her for never taking issue with the direction he wanted to take the story. Her notes were all about how she felt Ripley should respond in certain situations, and he was happy to accommodate those.
Cool.
Early in the movie, we had the knife trick, right? Which is, don't try it at home, folks, if you're watching the movie. The knife trick was originally going to be done by Bishop alone. According to Lance Henriksen, he suggested to James Cameron to have Hudson's hand on top of his hand, in which Cameron agreed, as Henriksen felt the scene needed to have a little something extra. This change was discussed with almost everyone except for Bill Paxton. Henriksen also remembers a long night of drinking after shooting the scene, followed by a reshoot of the scene. And it looked too fake, so they sped the footage up. He accidentally caught Paxton's pinky with a knife in the reshoot.
Oh my gosh.
So he actually got cut.
Oh no.
I mean,
so we watched that scene with my mother and another family member, and this was their first time ever watching Aliens, and it got to that scene and you could literally see them stressing out, like thinking he's gonna get cut. And it was so good. I was like, oh, it's like watching it for this Watson. Yeah, that's great.
I appreciate them speeding though. You can tell, like if you see, you're just like, okay, this is fast, but also he's supposed to be a robot, so it's fine. Or I'm sorry, synthetic person. I think that's what he said. According to Bill Paxton, he improvised the lines, including "Game over, man, game over," and his famous line, "We're on an express elevator to hell, going down," was probably improv as well, as it doesn't appear in the shooting script. Lance Henriksen wanted to wear double pupil contact lenses when for a scene where Bishop is working in a laboratory on a microscope and giving a scary look to one of the Marines. He came to the set with those lenses, and after a test, James Cameron decided that he did not need to wear the lenses because he was acting in a character just the right amount of creepiness already. He didn't need him to be more creepier.
Yeah. That would have been obvious as hell.
Yes, absolutely. Because I think just the obviously his hair is not that color, so it being so dyed, it made him look more synthetic, and maybe the makeup choices, because he's not sweating. Obviously, and everyone is sweating. Wherever they're at, it's hot, and everything is wet except for Bishop. Bill Paxton continually apologized to Carrie Henn throughout the film every time Hudson had to swear in front of her. Carrie later admitted that she didn't mind, mainly because she really didn't know what any of those words meant because she was that young.
Oh my gosh.
Because when he goes out, he's talking wild. When he gets pulled under, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
So this is a rarity right here, and I think deserve it. I don't know who was up for this award, but Sigourney Weaver's Best Acting Academy Award nomination for this movie was the first ever for an actress in a role of an action movie.
Oh wow, I think I do remember that.
Al Matthews, who plays the Marine sergeant in the film, Al Pone, was in real life the first black Marine to be promoted to the rank of sergeant in the field during service in Vietnam. And also this movie kind of has that thing, that light Vietnam thing too, which makes sense because this is where this dude's experience is at.
It did feel like that.
Yeah. And I think it came out the same year. I know it came out the same year as Platoon. And My dad's a vet, a Vietnam vet. So he's like, yeah, that's not how it went down. It's like it's space. This is space. This is fictional space. But when they wake up in the beginning out of those pods, I like the idea that Alpone either had the cigar in his mouth when he went into hypersleep, or that's the first thing he got when he got out of hypersleep.
I always think it's the first thing he got when he got out of hypersleep. Like he was like, whoa, let me go get my cigar.
So Vasquez is doing chin-ups or what have you, and he's just like, I need a cigar to chew on.
The fact that she's doing chin-ups after hypersleep for however long is fascinating.
And the underwear choices, they're not great in space. They're not great. Underwear choices are not great.
They're like the bathhouses.
Yes. Yes. Let's see. The only acting role for Carrie Henn, she went on to become a teacher. The Alien Nest, as opposed to Elliot Nest, which that sounds a lot like. I don't like that. The Alien Nest was kept intact after filming. It was later used as the Axis chemical set for Batman in 1989. When the Batman crew entered a set, they found most of the alien nest still intact.
Wow. I know. What if that was probably terrifying?
It's like, what the hell is this?
Can you imagine?
I would be like, yo, what do we see? What are we shooting again? Like you didn't read the script. You just read your stuff. You're like, what is this? Who's here?
Exactly. Oh my God.
And it's a lot of black. So it's just like, you just come in, it's like, turn the lights on. Why is it dripping? It smells weird in here. The Fox execs saw an early cut of the film and complained to producer Gail Ann Hurd that it looked like all of the money had been spent on sets rather than special effects. Gail took great delight in telling the execs that the majority of the sets they were seeing in the film were indeed miniatures or optical effects and e.g. special effects. The artists behind the images were very pleased that their work have fooled the money men. So they were doing such good stuff, because that's the thing that I think gets lost, that we're a lot more reliant in like the last, let's say 25 years on CGI to varying degrees, that miniatures aren't being used to the same degree.
No, not at all.
And you see like when I think of like Blade Runner or something, which is even 4 years before this film, it's like, oh yeah, these are miniatures. You didn't have money for this.
Right.
According to Lance Hendrickson, during the production of Aliens, the film Full Metal Jacket, which came out in 1987, was being shot nearby. Because of the crews of each movie would often get together for parties, both films featured U.S. Marines trapped in intense combat situations. Both cast features U.S. Marine Vietnam veterans, Arlie Emery in Full Metal Jacket and Al Matthews in Aliens. In both films, the actors played sergeants, and they used the phrase assholes and elbows. Coincidentally, both actors died in 2018.
What?
Assholes and elbows. I am going to start saying that to podcasters. It's like, look, man, what are we doing? You know the drill.
Assholes and elbows.
James Cameron faced a big problem to win the confidence and the respect of the British crew, like I was saying from earlier, who worked on 1979's Alien. They were fiercely loyal to Ridley Scott. So in order to try to convince them that he had the talent and skills to do the job, he arranged a screening of The Terminator from 1984 for the cast to demonstrate his abilities. However, the cast ignored the invite and didn't show up.
That's hilarious.
They were dicks. He was like, yeah, man, big James Cameron here. I know what I'm doing. It's like, we don't care. We don't care at all, actually.
I want that kind of loyalty.
I try to get that type of loyalty, and I don't know. I had to do a Detroit Red move, just, do Russian roulette and show everyone when it comes to this podcast stuff.
There you go.
A few more things. The full size Queen puppet was actually too big to fit into the elevator, and literally it gets on the elevator at the end of the movie, which I forgot happened, and I laughed out and paused it. That's the thing that I do now. You know how you'll look at the runtime for a movie, right? And it's like, can I watch this? Am I good? When I'm watching movies with my partner, she and I will pause it during different instances where something ridiculous happens or something where it's like, hold on, let's run back for a second. And we'll add whatever that time is, almost like a soccer match. And it's like, all right, what was stoppage time here? And it's like, did it take us 4 hours to watch this 2-hour movie? Yes. And we determine how bad the movie was based on how many times we have to stop.
Oh my gosh.
We watched Shocker recently, which if you haven't seen it and you like horror movies, I'd recommend watching it. It's one of those forgotten Wes Craven movies. Came out in 1989. It's ridiculous.
I haven't seen it in forever.
There's a drop kick in it where whenever I see a drop kick in an actual when I'm in a movie, I'm like, hold on, no, that didn't happen. So it didn't fit in the elevator. So for the shot where it's seen in the elevator, the tail is removed and the back and yet the back of the elevator had prop, smoke, dark lighting, basically kind of theater of mine, almost like this green screen that I have behind me, this black screen I have behind me, is creating the image that it's taking up this space, but really it's probably just a guy with the alien like torso on him.
Wow.
One of the alien eggs is now on an exhibit. So the alien eggs, the sweaty, gross alien eggs, is in the Smithsonian.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, in the air and space, or?
It doesn't say, but it says there is an exhibit. So trip to the Smithsonian.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to take my mom to do.
It's like, I'm taking this.
Yes.
The alien screams are an animal that is altered in post-production. Can you guess what type of animal it could be? It's an animal that's not in the U.S., by the way, just to give some type of help.
Oh my gosh. Not in the U.S.
And
I feel like
likes
it's
trees.
A bird.
Actually, it's a baboon.
Oh, okay.
They've used the wild monkey to make the sounds. A monkey. Sigourney Weaver had been very hesitant to reprise her role as Ripley.
Say Sigourney, you blew right through her.
Sigourney Weaver?
Yes.
Sigourney Weaver had initially been very hesitant to reprise her role as Ripley. She had rejected numerous offers from Fox to do any sequels, fearing that the character would be poorly written and a subpar sequel would hurt the legacy of Alien. However, she was so impressed with the high quality of James Cameron's script, specifically the strong focus on Ripley and the mother-daughter bond between her and the character Newt, and the incredible precision in which Cameron wrote the character, that she finally agreed to do the film. She was, of course, disappointed when Cameron had to shorten the movie. The cut of the scene where Burke brings Ripley the news of just missing the death of a character, the character's daughter. Of her character's daughter, where Weaver felt it would have completed the circle of the mother-daughter bond with Newt. The scene was later restored in a special edition. So I think there's 20 minutes in the special edition of just stuff that was cut out of the movie. So apparently this movie was close to 3 hours. Yep.
Seen it, of course, because I had to get that box for my mother. So we did get to see it, and it was tragic. I think she got really emotional after that. Seen the director's cut in a while, but yeah, I do remember that scene.
So H.R. Giger was not brought back for the character design for the second movie. He was working on Poltergeist 2 for the other side. So he was not happy. He was disappointed that he wasn't called back, but he still said the execution and the character designs were beautifully done. So good on him.
Yeah.
And lastly, as far as just this trivia, Michael Biehn, so that was Hicks, got the call on Friday night asking to take over the role for Hicks from James Remar, who was in London he was in London at the start of the film. It was filming on Monday, so he got it a day before. And it was very similar to how John Hurt got the role in the original movie. Someone dropped out and it's like, I need you here immediately. So it's like, he got the call on Friday. I need you on set Monday.
Oh, wow.
So Michael Biehn finds a way. I feel like he's James Cameron's guy, because he was freaking in Terminator. He was Kyle Reese.
He's a good dyer, like Schaun Champion.
Shit. Wow. He's a good dyer.
I mean, Sean Bean dyer. You know what I mean? He's one of the best.
Absolutely.
So Michael Biehn, it only makes sense, So
I want to throw this last one at you, because this is kind of funny and it's kind of gross. Lance Hendrickson had a little food poisoning towards the end of the movie.
Ugh.
So when he's impaled by
Oh my God.
the queen,
That's real.
so it's not real, but he got sick from the yogurt and milk that they gave him to spew out
Oh.
because he is going for it. And I was like, oh no.
Oh my gosh. Yogurt and
And-
milk. That's so gross.
When characters would die, in an interview with Movie Phone, Sigourney Weaver said that she would give the actors bouquets of flowers before the filming began, like the day, like your character's dying today. When it was time for Paul Rice's character to die, she gave him a handful of dead blossoms. Like, he sucked. Burke sucked. So that's pretty much that trivia I have. Hopefully it was something in there that the fine folks listening and maybe even you, since you've watched every iteration of this. I think you have the Schaun Champion cut, maybe, I don't know. But so observations, let's get to that. I'll let you go first. I've been yapping. So what observations do you have?
I feel like this is one, and I could be wrong, but I felt like this was one of the first films where product placement was really shoved in our face with the Reebok shoes and the little, like, I just felt like they just kept putting it in my face. Like, okay, I get it. Reebok. It's Reebok. You want me to buy it? I don't know where it is now, but like I see it. So that was one of my first observations.
Real quick, that's one of my observations, actually. So I did research on it. So there are, Bishop had a version, Ripley had a version. We didn't really see Bishop's. His are like gold and black, and they're called the Stomper High Tops, the Alien Stomper High Tops. And because I'm not a sneakerhead, but I am a dude. I went on StockX. You can get these Stompers for $1,000 currently.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So there you go.
Yeah, that's awesome. I wasn't sure. I was like, there's something up with these daggone shoes that keep popping up here. One of my observations was, love how they're like descending at breakneck speed onto the planet, and no one has helmets on.
Good observation there. Hell yeah.
Like, I was just like, wait, aren't they like barreling into the planet? Do you think they're going to jump out of this like parachute or something? I don't know.
Oh, we don't hit no bumps.
Yeah. I don't know. It felt like it was all bad.
The only person that got a concussion was freaking Goyer, right? It's like, yeah, you deserve that. You dick. He
looked like he was probably a jerk. They probably wrote that in.
Yes. It's like, let's just make him a complete asshole.
And then knock him out so we can get him offset.
Right.
Yeah.
He's filming an episode of Columbo or something because he's like one of those day guys. Like, hey, I got three series I'm working on this week.
One of my other observations is this whole movie is full of badass women, like from beginning to end. It's Ripley. It is the pilot. It's the soldier. It's the hero. It's the little girl. Like everybody who was kicking ass in this film was a woman. So that's like one of my favorite things about it. And I think that might be why my mother loved it so much, because it was the first movie that kind of put the woman as the hero. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. And I think that's a James Cameron thing where, it's like, I'm going to have it in there. You got Sarah Connor. You got, I'm blanking on her name, but you have Michelle Rodriguez's character and Sigourney Weaver in Avatar. And Zoe Saldana in Avatar. And it's just like, this is what I do. I mean, he's probably a dick to be married to or what have you, because that has his whole litany of things, but he definitely hands it over. And it's like, I need a strong woman in this movie.
I wonder if he's doing it because that's how he feels, or because he's like, this is different. Nobody else does this, so I'm going to do it. And that's what makes him stand out.
Could be a little bit of both. Yeah. Could be both at the same time. Did you have any other observations?
I do, but I would like to hear some of yours.
Mine's are going to be maybe in the form of questions.
Oh, okay. Well, cool.
Why do androids always seem untrustworthy? Like, that's the characterization in this series.
I think once they write the character archetypes, they try to stick to the formula. And I think it's set up in this particular movie. It showed her trauma from the other one. It was like a got you moment, like, aha, you thought I was going to let you die, but I'm not, like.
And then he got just freaking impaled or what have you. And he saved Newt too, because she was going out of the airlock.
Exactly. So it's like you set it up and then you set it up for him to do the big switcheroo another time. Like it's like, I don't know.
They tried to do that to a lesser degree with David and the Prometheus movie and then Alien Covenant. And I was like, it didn't quite land. However, I will say this, because I like when shit just goes left. And I was watching Alien Covenant with my partner after we did this podcast festival. And it's that scene when David kisses previous David. I was like, yo, these androids are about to make out. And she was like, no, that's not about to happen. And then they started making out. And I was like, what I tell you? The next question I have in these observations, where does the loader rank in terms of 80s movie tools / weapons? Where do you kind of put that at? Is it iconic? Is it not?
It's as iconic as, well, it depends on who you ask. I was going to say it's as iconic as the pizza thrower on top of the Ninja Turtles, man.
Wow, nice. Let's points to that. Points on that one.
So I don't know. It's like, it could be that, or it could be just as iconic as like, RoboCop's get up. You know what I mean? It's almost
Totally.
like my mother. So, because that's like, again, that's one of the parts where she's like, watch, look at her doing the thing. She's doing the thing.
Get away from her, you bitch. You're like,
right.
wow.
That exactly. So that whole moment was just, I think it's iconic. It's good.
And I appreciate that they set it up earlier instead of just, hey, I know how to use this. It's like, come on. Let's just take 2 seconds. She was able to use it. She impressed like, Apone and friggin' Hicks and, did the thing with it. It's like, yeah, I can kick ass. I know how to use this loader. It's the equivalent of like not a flatbed truck or what have you. It's like having that license. It's like, yeah, I can drive this forklift. It's almost, to me, if to get really geeky about it, it's almost proto like Gundam Wing, exosuit, something like that. I think it sets up that foundation for that, because that's what it reminds me of. Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty iconic.
So the last question / observation that I have is, when people think of Ripley as the dope action character, is it more around this particular movie, or is it as the franchise, the whole body of work within this franchise?
Again, it depends on who you ask. So the dedicated fans will see it as the whole franchise.
Sure.
She was the voice of reason in Alien, and she knew how to get herself out of there. She knew how to get herself out of trouble. I think what turned her into an action hero was Aliens. Because her super grip as the alien is hanging onto her foot.
Yep.
They're both being sucked out of like space, in space is phenomenal. So I don't see how that couldn't turn her into a superhero movie. So yeah,
that's great.
I think this movie probably set her up for that whole, like, being an action hero woman, whatever that is.
She was doing one arm push-ups next to Vasquez. They didn't show that. That was where that upper body strength came from. I think it's definitely the two movies. I think it's because she wasn't the person, like the lead was what, Tom Skerritt or what have you in the first movie. And, she's that carryover and became like, I think her most maybe significant franchise for the actress, for Sigourney Weaver. And really, it's this one. It's like, you did such a dope job and the character was so dope in this movie that, we don't need Alien Resurrection or what have you. We don't need really Aliens 3. And I feel like I feel like there was a slam dunk in that movie. I feel like she was shooting a basketball or something at one point. And I was like, and that wig was not good either. If we're keeping it,
that was a greasy wig. Yes,
it was a greasy wig. That's a season of my new podcast, Greasy Wigs. But I think it's definitely this movie. But I think as a whole, it's worth watching it's worth watching all of the movies, because part of this came up for me because my partner did a deep dive and she was like, I'm going to watch all of the Predator movies. And she'd asked me, are the Alien versus Predator movies worth your time? And I was like, depends on who you ask. Schaun Champion did. It's like, it depends on who you ask. And I was like, the first one, not as much. I don't like when you change things to make it PG-13 suitable. But the second one goes so left where you're killing children in the first few minutes. So I was like, look, this is not going to make up. For what was it? Sanaa Lathan saying, "You're one ugly mother." Boom. I was like, don't do that. Don't. But then you get Mahershala in Predators. So I mean, I need to do a Predator one. That's going to be next. But yeah, I think I think as a whole body of work, it has its merits. But this is definitely, when it comes to like ranking the movies within this franchise and how important this movie and the characterization of Ripley in this movie is, it's definitely top seed.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's all I had. Did you have anything else, and any final thoughts here?
Well, first I want to say I think people should reconsider Alien Resurrection. It has its own unique qualities and approach, and it's one of my favorite directors. So I understand why people were a little put off by it, but we're used to seeing that style. That I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a blending of two of the style things that I love. So yeah, revisit that. Other than that, I think the only notes that I really have, are we talking about our favorites? Are we moving into something else?
Oh yeah, we can hit favorite scenes. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, okay. Thanks. You kept me on point there. Points to you on that one.
Yeah, I feel like the pain in Ripley's face when she's witnessing like the soldiers dying, like that's some of the best. I don't know if you want to call it subtlety work, but she's not talking. You know what I mean? And I was really just like, she right now, she doesn't know what to do. And it kind of really sets up that scene of her like knocking what's his name out of the way, like, no, I have to save these people. And it's the turn for me of her becoming that terrified person who just happened to survive Alien to becoming this hero. So for her to act that out and be so stressed, I'm just, I thought that was really good acting for her. So that's one of my favorite scenes. And she just kind of kicks it into high gear. I feel like
I think with that one, you're right. Like everyone seems unprepared, especially Gorman or what have you. It's just like, that's Alpone. It's like, sir, like just have your concussion and lay down or what have you.
I feel like that's all they could do.
She just peels over there and, freaking, the Tesla joint and just like, yo, get in. We got to get out of here because these people are being slaughtered. And she knows it as soon as like, she's like, oh, no, I got to get out of there. Get your men out. Yeah. It's like, shut up, Ripley. Get your men out of here. He was so unprepared. And it even happens later when Hudson is like losing his shit. Mm-hmm. The whole game over, man happens.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
It's like, get your shit together. It's like, at least for the kid, at least for appearances.
Right. And it got progressively. That's why I think this is such a solid acting job from Sigourney, because she started off very, PTSD. Yes. And then we notice her be traumatized and the hero kicks in. And then we notice, now the hero has kicked in. Now she's get your shit together. We got work to do. And then it got even more badass when she goes to save and she's backing out of the nest real slow and the pod opens and she's just like, and she turns her head like, not today. You know what I mean? Like, not today. And then we get the last iconic scene of, get away from her, you bit, that kind of, like, it just got progressively more badass. It was like the movie just started off at this slow little lullaby to rock at the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
The whole thing. It was great. So
it was the progressive rock equivalent of a story. It's like, oh, this is where we're going with this.
Yeah, exactly. So that whole nest scene was amazing for me. It looked great visually. This movie is very blue, by the way, too.
Yes.
It's blue and it's crazy. But that whole scene of her like psyching herself up and going down the elevator and getting hyped up, like, all right, I don't know how this is going to end, but I'm not going out without a fight. You know what I mean? So it was just really, really good to see.
Good weapon work when, you know, that thing that is, I guess, is a trope when you have movies. It's like, let me show you all the weapons I'm taking with me. It's like flash grenades, weapons. It's like, all right, man, what's this, commercial?
Of that, but it also points for always setting us up first, so things don't come out of left field and we're like, where the fuck did she get that?
Like, what's this?
So for Hicks to be showing her that and kind of walking her through it,
she was like, yeah, show me everything.
Yeah.
It was that little scene with the loader when the little flamethrower comes out. I was like, where the hell did that come from?
Right.
I was like, we didn't see that earlier. That's really convenient. How are you going to use that? That's not a weapon.
That's awesome. But I mean, those are pretty much observations other than the colors and the music and then the lullaby scene as everybody, that's her and Newt going to sleep. That last frame is something that a photo of. It just looked very storybook. The glass is foggy. You can see both of their faces.
Are we gonna sleep all the way home?
All the way home.
Can I dream?
Yes, honey. I think we both can.
The lullaby is going on. It's like very soft and it's like, are we safe? You know what I mean? Like, it was great.
Can we sleep?
The way home.
Yeah, like one of y'all ain't gonna make it. Two of y'all ain't gonna make it.
Ooh, that opening scene for the... Is that a spoiler alert?
Well, actually, three of y'all ain't gonna make it because technically Bishop was still alive, I guess. And
no, they said, have you watched a while?
I haven't watched the director's cut. I have it. I bought like the collector's edition or have you that has the embassy cut of 3, and I believe the director's cut of 2 is in there. So I have to check. I have to watch it. I have to rewatch it.
Yeah, that I think I watched that opening sequence like 10 times. Like the last time I watched it. So eerie. This is beautiful. It's beautifully shot. It's a strange movie, but you know, it is what it is.
That's all I got. I think you've hit on each one of the things that I had too, in terms of like I like the acting. I agree with that. Sigourney is during the hive scene that I call it the hive ambush or what have you. That was just dope. Everyone's just going out and it is insane. And it's kind of a culmination of what Hudson said. We're going to hell, man. It's like, yeah, there's a person on fire and someone stuck in a wall and you're all going to be slaughtered.
Shut up! Hicks, whoever's left, get the hell out of here! God damn it!
God, where's the phone? Where's the phone? Sergeant, stop! Get the fuck out of here! Let's go, Marine!
Hudson? Vasquez?
Hudson, look out!
Hicks! Tell them to fall back. Tell them to fall back.
You're cut off! Do something! Fuck!
Come on, keep moving, baby.
Hold on, Newt.
Ripley, what the hell are you doing?
And Hudson going off, like that whole sequence of we got to thin this herd because we got to move to the next thing. So Gorman, Hudson, and Vasquez all go out within the span of a few minutes, and even in this, Hicks gets taken off the board too, because he kills one of the xenomorphs, but then he gets his friggin' face burnt up.
7, 6.
Can't be. That's inside the room.
It's reading right, man. Look.
Well, you're not reading it right.
5 meters, man. 4. What the hell? Oh my God. Oh, shit.
Give me the light.
Let me go over there! Get him! Come on!
With the acid. So it's just like, none of you are going to be used. Bishop is off the board because he's the computer pilot kind of dude or what have you. So Ripley, it's on you. You got to get this girl.
Did they Last Jedi yet?
a little bit.
That's what they're like. I'm going to kill all these important characters.
This is what we really wanted. But yeah, I think it's that. And I really liked going back through and rewatching this movie, and it's been a treat talking with you about this movie.
Likewise. Thanks for bringing it back to my attention.
Yeah. So until next time, I think that we can wrap it up here. So until next time, I'm Rob Lee. And again, thank you, Schaun. Thank you, Schaun Champion. Check Schaun Champion out. Schaun Champion. I'm just going to keep saying it until people get it. That's why I do it. Say it until you get it. Where can they find you on social media if they want to check you out?
On Instagram, it is Schaun Champion. Or Twitter, OvoSchaun, OVOSCHAUN.
Thank you. So until next time, keep watching those movies, folks. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.